Thank y'all so much for tuning in to another tutorial, guys. As usual, all the steps to this haircut and all the tools that we use are in the description down below. And shout out to those who have been buying our merch and supporting us. We're going to start this haircut by lightly damping the hair and combing it in its neutral position. Here I got the number 8 guard lever closed. I'm going to run that throughout the whole top. And after every couple strokes, you want to make sure you recomb the hair just to get it to lay in its neutral position, and you can always ensure that you're cutting against the grain. And for every haircut, I always go over the top multiple times. I hate to see the frizz that sticks out, or when you can tell that the top is uneven on haircuts, all because the barber was rushing or just simply didn't care to go over it again. And as we all know, hair cutting can be tedious, so you always want to make sure you're working with a clean space. So here I'm just dusting them off now that we're done with the top. Now we're going to start with the number 2 guard lever fully open, and this is just to clean out the sides, because when you come in and set your guidelines, you want to make sure that you can literally see your guidelines as detailed as possible. Now to set in our first guideline, we're going to use no guard and close the lever completely. And we're going to start right at that temple puke area and drop it as we approach the back of the ear. You want to be soft and subtle with these guidelines, just so it's a lot easier when we come back down and release them. And to those who are curious, yes, my clippers are zero gap. I always zero gap my actual haircutting clippers and my trimmers. Make sure you end up at that same temple puke area on the opposite side. Now with the lever fully open, we're going to create our second guideline, coming up about an inch or so. Just make sure that you stay consistently parallel to the guideline underneath to make sure your fade is consistent throughout. And one thing I highly recommend is you keep a small brush on your opposite hand, and after every couple strokes you brush your surface. Now with the number 1 guard lever still fully open, we're going to come in and create our third guideline. Again, flicking out towards the top to make sure that this guideline is as soft as possible, yet still keeping it parallel consistently to the one underneath it. We can take it all around the head. Now with my number 2 guard lever still fully open, we're going to come in and continue the process. And with this higher guard, I usually do exaggerate that flick out motion. Now with my number 3 guard lever still fully open, I'm just going to continue the process, keep cleaning out the surface. And I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same thing with my number 4 guard. And this is basically, I'm just trying to connect the sides to the top, and I usually never really use anything higher than the number 4 guard, so anything over the number 4 guard I usually do either like clipper over comb or shear over comb. As you can see, we still got a little bit of bulk around the parietal ridge and crown area, so I'm just going to come in with my thinning shears over comb and reduce that bulk. So now you should have your first guideline that we created with the 0, second that we created with the lever open, and third that we created with the number 1 guard lever open. We're going to start with our number 1.5 guard, and we're going to close the lever just slightly, putting it in a 3/4 position. It's basically in between halfway and fully open. And we're going to start with that top guideline and work our way down, using mainly just the corners of the clipper to get in these tighter areas, and just try to make sure that we don't take the fade any higher. Now with my half guard, I'm gonna leave the lever in that same 3/4 position and start digging at that second guideline coming down. Take that all around the head, and if you notice, this step is creating a faint guideline right above it. Do not take this guard any higher, as we will come back right now with the 1 guard and remove that faint line. Like I was mentioning, now I got the number 1 guard, but we're going to leave the lever in that same 3/4 position and attack that faint line that the half guard created. So if you did notice, as we set up the process and set up these guidelines, I leave my lever fully open, and when we're working our way back down, I leave the lever in that 3/4 position, and the only thing that we're changing is the guards. Now for that last line, we're going to use a 3-step process, starting with the lever closed, and then we're going to open it halfway, and then we're going to open it up completely. We're going to work in sections at a time, focusing just on this left side of the head. We're going to take each of those notches up just slightly. So here, starting with the lever closed, taking it up just a bit, using mainly the corners of the clipper. And now I'm going to put the lever halfway and continue that process. And finally, I'm going to open it up completely and attack that last line. And by the end of this step, your fade is pretty much complete. So you're just going to want to repeat that same 3-step process around the whole head. As for the back, I do break it down into 2 smaller sections, just because, as we all know, the back, it's a very difficult area. So I like to focus on the detail as much as possible. So here again, I'm just starting with the lever closed, and now we're going to open it up halfway. Take each of those steps just slightly up, guys. So do not take them in a hurry, and just take your time with this last line.
तो बोलता है वैसे में एक बार ज्यादा तंग करने हाँ चलो अपना तो होना भी चाहिए हाँ ये बंदा खा लिया है चलो कोई बात नहीं कहीं नहीं घसता आदमी इतना जब अपने कोई काम आवे जब कर
Again, all these steps are in the description down below in case you want to screenshot them and you'd like to follow along that way.
बस तो अपने घर ला दिया अपने घर ला फिर दिमाग में सड़ा का देगी अरे नहीं यार बढ़ने दे
We do have a video on how we zero gap our clippers. I will put it in the description down below for y'all guys to check it out. We basically just put it in the beginning of another tutorial. But I'm gonna go ahead and link that down for y'all. Be sure to check it out and zero gap y'all's clippers as soon as possible, guys. It makes a huge difference. I highly recommend it. We're pretty much done with the fade here. I want to use your trim in this position just so you can get a lot of pictures of the scalp. Follow that by turning your trim around and erasing that fade guideline that created. And what this is going to do is it's just going to get a lot closer to the scalp, like I mentioned, and it's going to give us a guideline so we know exactly how high up to take the shaver. And before you use your trimmer in this position, I highly recommend that you test it on the inside of your forearms just to ensure that your clippers are not scratching or biting.
ये तो बताओ हमारे से पहले या हमारे से पहले हमें तो कहीं को घुमा के मिलाए दो
एक तो हो गया हम और एक हो गया फुटबॉल जवान
And as we begin to remove the bottom area, this is the paint line that I was speaking of, and this is just exactly how high up you want to take that extra shaver.
सब दिन बाद तो आ गई
जिसकी बात बताऊं तो सर जिस टाइम तेरा भाई लेगा ना तो बोल
तो हम तो दुकान पे थे। अच्छा, तेरे सामने हम किसी फालतू बात
You always want to
मैंने
turn
हम भी
the
गए
shape
वहाँ
or
पे
around
चलो तो नहीं
approach
गए
that faint line. Try to use mainly just the corners of it, just to ensure that we don't create another guideline and then push the fade up higher.
इतनी बात थी। तो जी
As for the back, you always want to make sure you're shaving against the grain, so here I'm running the back of my fingers on his neck, just so I can see in what direction the grain is growing, to just confirm that I'm cleaning and shaving against the grain.
वो तेरी बाण को गुस्सा आ गया। अब घोड़े का मतलब है मगर बात सुनो मेरी, रो तो अपने कपड़ों में कपड़े से मारना।
Here I'm using the number 1 guard lever fully open, just to take off the long hairs that the eyebrows have.
सिर्फ तो तुम करते हैं और 2 दिन बाद तुझे दिखाऊंगा सच क्या झूठ का।
अरे उन्होंने तो
As for
बंदा
the
भाई
edge,
भाई
you
ना
can
इसको
use
फूट
under
दे
by spritz, and this is just going to freeze the hair in a downward position. You want to cover his eyes and spray a few times on his hairline, comb it down, and then you can
नहीं
either
इससे
let it
पहले
air
भिजाते
dry or
हम तो
finish the
भिजाने
process
देते
by
थे
blow
कपड़े
drying it.
लेने थे वहाँ से
But while that dries, we're going to go ahead and
भाई
clean up his
दाम का
eyebrows.
बोलने थे
हाँ
गए थे खाए तुम
When shaving the straight ridge, you always want to make sure that you're stretching the skin with the opposite hand to ensure a smoother shave.
तो मैंने उसकी बात पढ़ की कहीं तेरे भाई की
And we're going to start at the middle of his forehead and work our way to one side.
अपने दिमाग
And when we're done with that side, I always come back to the middle basically just to reset myself and work my way to the opposite side.
गलती मंगलवार आ गया बोल रहा था मुझे
Quick tip I got for y'all before I apply the shaving gel, I do lubricate the area with a little bit of water.
अपनी समझ से इसके साथ दिया करा
And we're going to start by shaving with the grain and then follow that by shaving against the grain.
मगर सही बात पे निकलेंगे इसके अंदर जो भी सच्चे ही हो बाबा ऐसा नहीं मैंने अपने पसंद करता मगर ना ये तो सब ना जो
And you want to clean your client up as much as possible. Take a step back and remove any frizz that sticks out. I usually just freehand it with my trimmers, and this just basically gives a fade a tighter and cleaner look.
और तो ना मैं मॉडल लड़की तो ऐसे मॉडल का पता नहीं बाबे लग गया मैं
Now we're going to grab a little bit of the matte pomade. We're going to emulsify it to where it almost disappears in your hand and just blend that to the surface. This is going to bring out the texture of your hair. We're going to apply a little bit of hair enhancements, and yes, I do dilute mine with half water, half dye. In case y'all forgot, here's the before. As you can see, it came in looking real scruffy, my handy. Here's the after. We got a bald and a fade with the number 8 on top. I hope y'all enjoyed this tutorial, guys. Let us know down in the comments below what y'all would like for us to do next. Thank y'all for tuning in. Till next time, peace.
और मेरी दुकान